It's been a while since my last video. To anyone who watched it, thank you for taking the time to. It was something that I went through that felt quite big to me. I've since been to Singapore and come back, and it still feels like my home. It felt different, but it was the family and the food and everything about it was still my home. And regardless of my citizenship, doesn't change that it's still my home. Onto this video, I, from the title, am very burnt out at the moment, despite the makeup that I've put on this morning. I know I'm going to edit this and feel like my voice is a little bit tepid and probably a little bit not as lively as how I usually speak, but that's because I'm really really burnt out. I had therapy on Monday and literally in the waiting room was crying, and then sat down with my therapist and just started crying. It was one of those sessions, and the opening line from my therapist was, "Oh, Jade, what's wrong?" I've definitely experienced burnout before, but I think this time I have never felt so like broken and exhausted. And I sometimes just, I think in the past I've either just tried to push through, because I guess my usual behavior would be, I'm tired, that's weak, I need to push through. I need to prove that I don't need rest, or I can just do it. And so that's been the strategy for the past however many times I've been burnt out before, but this time I'm like properly burnt out. This week has been a few meltdowns. There's definitely the data to prove that my body and my mind is exhausted, and I just told my therapist, like, I can't regulate my emotions. The tiniest thing will just set me off. I could just start crying for no reason at my desk. I'm not getting enough sleep. I can't process my emotions or how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking in like an orderly fashion. My body just feels like a shell. My therapist was like, look, whatever you're doing right now is not really working, so we need to try and, find a better solution than just pushing through. It wasn't until I like listed everything that I've been going through that kind of gave reason to why I'm so exhausted. And then my therapist kind of spoke about this analogy, as a very sensitive person who has a lot of big feelings. I feel like my life is a bucket, and my bucket is just a little bit smaller than maybe some other people's. And when you're exhausted and stressed, it keeps getting filled up and filled up and filled up. And because I have a smaller bucket, it just gets really full very quickly. And then you kind of have like little punctures at the bottom of your bucket, like little holes. And those things are like sleep, exercise, eating well. And when you have those holes and you are doing those things like sleeping and eating and exercising, the water comes out, so the level of the bucket kind of goes down a little bit. So, more stress, more water goes in the bucket. If you're eating and drinking water and all of those things, so your little holes and they come out, the water comes out, you have more space in your bucket to deal with more stress. But right now my bucket is unbelievably full, and the holes at the bottom are tiny, so nothing's being filtered out, and it's just more and more stress going in. And I think I've just been left with this overflowing bucket of stress, exhaustion, emotions, feelings, thoughts. Everything is just kind of going everywhere and seeping into my life, and I need to do something about it. Right now, my life and my priorities are honestly just the basics. eating well, drinking water, sleeping. I've been really trying to go to bed at 9:30 every night and waking up earlier for exercise if I feel like my body can cope with it. My therapist just reminded me, like, you just need to cover the basics, and then slowly you'll have the energy to reincorporate things like friends and creativity and all of those things back in your life. They will just come naturally because that's the type of person that you are. But you need to set a good foundation, otherwise everything else in your life is just going to fall apart. It's funny because I'm quite in tune with my body and like my mind and my feelings, but for some reason I think something inside me is just like, no, you need to keep pushing. No, you need to prove yourself to everyone. And I think I need to just like turn that side of my brain off, because it's not actually progressing me any further. It's just actually pushing me further and further behind and not really doing anything productive. So that's where I'm at right now. I've kind of put this video format together and I kind of want to do a series, but essentially I want to talk about something that I'm going through or I've been feeling in the past week. And then I've really been having lots of fun writing haikus. So I commute to work, which is great because I don't have to worry about driving or whatever. I can just turn my brain off, and it's actually a really lovely time to be creative in the morning. I'm usually a morning person, so most of my energy is in the morning. And so I kind of just sit there and write these haikus of what I'm going through. And the video format that I've been wanting to create is kind of like I talk about things that I'm going through, have a little chat, discussion, and then I'm going to journal the haikus that I've written about the thing that I'm experiencing. I'm about to go do a collage journal, and I'll time lapse that. And then, I don't know, I haven't been collaging for a while. This seemed like a really exciting new format and structure, because I am one of those people that really enjoys that sort of thing and thrives off being creative in that way. So I will put the time lapse in now. I finished my collages. Okay, so this is like my first collage I've done since May. So I don't know, I kind of like had this idea for the collage like when I woke up this morning, which was random. I kind of like had this idea to like find a background, cut a star out. I love the colors. The blues and the pinks are really scratching an itch in my brain. This one was kind of like two haikus, kind of like together. I'm not like in love with this collage, but like I like the simplicity. This is probably like, I really like the composition. And then the other thing I wanted to do is adopt Media of the Week, which I stole from Emergency Intercom. I've been listening to a lot of jazz house, particularly Berlioz and Dublin. Those are two artists. TV I've been watching, I started watching Severance for the first time. I love the concept. I think it's come at a really funny time in my life where I feel very apathetic towards work right now, and it's just interesting to see that portrayed on screen. Very visually pleasing symmetry with a very dark story. So yeah, I don't know. Funny how things line up in your life. And then of course I've been watching Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So my favorite day of the week has now changed because new episodes come out on Thursday. So Thursday is now my favorite day of the week because new Real Housewives of Salt Lake City comes out. I am loving this season, and I send voice memos to my friend Kimmy dissecting every single piece of anything on that show, which is so funny because I was speaking to a colleague and I think I mentioned the Kardashians as a joke, and she was like, oh, you know, that's my guilty pleasure. I love watching reality TV. No. This is not a guilty pleasure for me. Like, this is a job. I watch reality TV like my life depends on it, in the sense that like I will analyze, I will like take apart, I will criticize all of the people that are on the show and what they do and what their behaviors are, what their relationships are. Like, it is so serious for me. It is not a guilty pleasure. Like, I do not watch it to turn my brain off. I watch it to stimulate my mind. Like, I'm not even kidding. I love reality TV so much. It's just, I just love it. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So, Real Housewives, Salt Lake City. Get amongst it. That's the video. I did 2 collages, spoke about my feelings, spoke about media I've been consuming, so yeah. Go check out my Instagram, that's where I post my collages, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, bye!